Hey family, welcome back to Jack's Making It Home. We are a lifestyle channel that produces videos based on home improvement, cooking, and also traveling. If you're already following us, then you know that we are in the midst of releasing our Costa Rica vlogs. Once we wrap those up, we will be releasing our vlogs on both Egypt and Jordan. All of those trips were really incredible, so if you enjoy those types of videos and you enjoy today's video, then we encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and share this channel with a friend or two. Now, in regards to today's video, as you can probably tell by the title, we're going to be bringing you guys a cooking video. By no means do I consider myself a professional when it comes to these, but the few times that I have made them, they've turned out really good, and there are a few ways to go about it. So without any further ado, we're going to be showing you guys how we go about creating homemade, from scratch, buttermilk biscuits, and they're pretty easy to do, so let's go ahead and jump straight into it. First, let's go ahead and talk about our ingredients and tools that we are going to need to prepare these biscuits. We're going to list them in the description below. So we're going to need a baking sheet, biscuit cutter, sifter, grater, parchment paper, rolling pin, spatula, large bowl, measuring cup, buttermilk, flour, baking powder, salt, honey, brown sugar, and finally butter. So now that we've talked about what's needed, we actually did forget to mention 3 measuring utensils. You will need a 1 cup, a 1/4 cup, and a 1 tablespoon. So just make sure you pull those out. But now that we got all that out of the way, we're actually going to jump into making these biscuits, starting with our dry ingredients. And our first ingredient is going to be our flour. I choose to use white lily flour. It is self-rising and it is milled from 100% red winter wheat. The softness of this wheat is going to ensure that your biscuits come out fluffy and also very tender. Now, if you're not a fan of white lily or you just don't have it readily available, feel free to utilize and experiment with different types and brands of flour, but just make sure that your measurements stay the same. So we already poured out 2 1/4 cup of flour, so we're gonna go ahead and throw that in the bowl. So we're going to pour in our 2 1/4 cups of flour. To that, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder. To that, just a pinch of salt. Just a very little bit. Make sure your hands are clean. And then I like my biscuits to have a hint of sweetness in them. This step is definitely optional. If you don't like that hint of sweetness, go ahead and leave this out. If you want more, put more in it. Definitely experiment and adjust your recipe accordingly. But we're gonna throw in a little bit of brown sugar. I'm gonna put in about 1.5 tablespoons of brown sugar into this dry mixture. And we are going to sift this. Now, the key to any successful biscuit is keeping your ingredients cold. The coldness is what's going to encourage that flaky texture that we all desire. So with that being said, throughout this process, you'll see me utilize different methods to try to ensure that my ingredients are staying as cold as possible. Starting with our next ingredient, which is our butter, and it's already frozen. So before you start your process, go ahead and pop your butter in the freezer for a few hours to make sure it's frozen. We're gonna use this grater to try to make sure that it's evenly distributed. We're gonna shred it up. If you don't have a box grater, because we're gonna use these larger holes. So if you don't have a box grater or you just don't wanna use it, feel free to use a knife and cut it up, and then use a pastry cutter to make sure it's evenly distributed throughout your dry mixture. just shredded our entire stick of butter, which is 8 tablespoons, and now we're gonna dump that into our dry mixture. We're gonna give this a quick toss, and then remember we talked about trying to keep our ingredients cold. We're gonna pop this in the freezer for about 15 minutes or so just to get a quick chill on it, and then we're gonna preheat our oven to 460 degrees in the meantime. So we got our dry mixture plus our butter out of the freezer, got our oven preheated. The next step is going to add our buttermilk. Once we get to this stage, we're going to try to move as fast as possible to, again, keep our ingredients as cold as possible. So the next step is to go ahead and create a well within this mixture. So now that we have that, we're going to add in 1 cup of our buttermilk. And this is absolutely cold, so we'll put it in the refrigerator. So now we're gonna pour that buttermilk in that well that we just created. From here, we're gonna mix all of our ingredients together. We're just gonna try not to overwork the dough. So just make sure we get all of this flour combined with this buttermilk. So we got it all combined, and as you can see, our dough has pulled away from the bowl. So now at this point, we are ready to roll it out. We're actually going to go ahead and flour our counter space a little bit. We're gonna roll out our dough onto our counter. And now we're gonna put a little bit of flour right on the top, just a little bit, and flour our rolling pin. And now we're gonna make a rectangle out of our dough. And if it's sticking like mine is right now, just go ahead and add a little bit more flour to your pan. You can also use your hands here, but again, you wanna keep your ingredients as cold as possible. So if you can avoid using your hands to roll it out, then go ahead and avoid it because it can actually melt that butter inside the biscuit. Once we have it into a decent rectangle like I have right here, what I like to do is fold it in thirds. So what I'll do is take a third on this side, fold over, and what we're doing right now is creating those layers. Fold on this side, and we'll fold that over, roll it out again. So I'll do that process twice. So now we're gonna do those thirds again. I'm gonna roll it out one more time, and this time I'm gonna fold it in half. All right, so our biscuit dough is pretty much done now. At this point, all I'm going to do is roll it out and get it prepared to cut. So we're doing our final roll here. And you want to get it down to 3/4 to an inch. So So now it's time to actually cut out our biscuits, guys. For the longest time, I'm not even gonna lie, I just went out and got this, but for the longest time, I've always used a simple can. So this is all you have. You can make some biscuits. So I didn't want to use this because I felt like y'all were gonna judge me, but I really don't care. So every time you go to make a cut, go ahead and flour your cutter. And with your cut, simply go straight up and down. Do not twist because we don't want anything to prevent our biscuits from rising in the oven. So you're gonna go straight down, come up, and pop it on your sheet that's already lined with your parchment paper. Flour, straight down and up. Don't twist. Flour, straight down and up. So we're gonna cut out the rest of these. So we're at the point now we have 9 biscuits out of this dough, but we still have more dough. We just can't make any more cuts. So all you have to do is combine what you have, roll it back out, and then make some more biscuits. So we're gonna, again, make that rectangle. Again, we're at 3/4 to an inch, and we're gonna make some more cuts. Flour, straight down and up. So it is a little messy, but we got a dozen biscuits out of our dough. We did put them close together so they can encourage one another to go ahead and rise when it's in the oven. It is now time to put it in the oven. We're gonna put it in for about 12 to 15 minutes until they get that golden brown in the middle of the oven. Once they are about done, we'll melt about 4 tablespoons of butter, and that will be to brush on the top as soon as they come out. So let's go ahead and pop them in the oven.
15 minutes later.
So we just got the biscuits out, guys, and it smells so good in here. Man, I wish y'all could smell it, but it took right at 15 minutes. It could take, like I said, anywhere between 12 to 15 at that 460 degrees. If yours takes longer, go ahead and take it, make it go as long as it needs to go until they get that golden brown color. As soon as it comes out, you're gonna brush it with some melted butter. We went ahead and melted it in the microwave, and you're gonna brush it right on top of those biscuits. So you're gonna make sure every single biscuit gets a little bit of love. And like I told you guys, I like my biscuits to have a hint of sweetness, so we're gonna drizzle some honey right on top of that butter. Definitely an optional step. If you like that sweetness, can't go wrong with it. Biscuits are so easy to make, and they're incredibly flexible. You can make a chicken biscuit, you can have them for breakfast with a bacon, egg, and cheese. You can eat them by themselves. If you're from the South, you might like some jelly or some jam with it, with your favorite fruit preserve. Today, I'm going to have some apple butter. We have another recipe that we're gonna have to give to you guys, actually making apple butter, but didn't have time to make it, so we're gonna use this jar of apple butter. And we're gonna go straight in for this one right here. So we're gonna throw a little apple butter right onto our biscuit. Smells great. Hope it tastes great. Y'all, I'm about to eat all 12 of these biscuits right now. You gotta give it a shot. It's so good. Light, fluffy, flaky, tender. Apple butter, perfect mix with it. Hint of sweetness from that honey and that brown sugar that I put in. Gotta give it a shot, guys. Really delicious. Like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, be blessed.